This film, entitled My Name, has a female main character named Yoon Jae-woo. She has a father named Yoon Dong-hun who works as a drug dealer. Because of her father's work, Jae-woo is always followed by detectives wherever she goes. Apart from that, even at school, she was always the subject of bullying by his classmates. Jae-woo's suffering increased when there were many reports from parents who were unhappy that their children were associating with the children of drug dealers. Finally, the teacher at the school called her and told her that Jae-woo would be expelled from school. Jae-woo couldn't do much and could only accept this situation. When Jae-woo returned to class, her classmates started bullying her again. Because Jae-woo felt that her life was a mess and was fed up with holding in her anger all this time, she mercilessly retaliated and beat up all the friends who had bullied her all this time. Here we see how Jae-woo takes revenge, and I was very satisfied seeing them beat them up. When she was about to leave the classroom, Jae-woo, who was emotional, immediately handed over her name tag to the teacher there and indicated that he no longer wanted to go to school. When she was leaving school, she saw the detective's car still following her. She immediately kicked their rearview mirror and the detectives chased her. After feeling that she was far away and no longer being chased, Jae-woo stopped at the seaside pier. She also saw a photo of herself and her father and reminisced about their time together. When it was evening, Jae-woo returned to the apartment. There was a bouquet and a box of birthday cake in front of the door, but because Jae-woo was still annoyed, she just kicked it and didn't care too much about it. While she was eating, she got a call from her father. It was the father who told her that he had given her a package for her birthday at the door. Yes, it was a birthday gift from her father. Dong-hun also apologized for not being able to accompany Jae-woo on her special day. But instead of being happy, Jae-woo became even more annoyed. She expressed all her emotions over the phone to her father. Jae-woo also said that she was bullied by her friends and she didn't even have any friends. She also told her father that she had been expelled from school just because of her father's work. Jae-woo also said angrily that she thought her father was dead and would never come back. Hearing that his son's life was ruined, Dong-hun of course couldn't bear it and was afraid of losing his beloved son. He increasingly felt wrong and promised to fix everything. Dong-hun, who was worried about his daughter, decided to go home even though he was being searched by the police. When he arrived there, he immediately beat the detective who had been following his son. After that, when he arrived at the front and tried to open the door, he saw a mysterious person carrying a gun coming towards her. Inside, Jae-woo, who heard the sound from outside, immediately woke up and peeked from inside. Dong-hun, who was cornered, surrendered and just begged the person not to hurt my child. Jae-woo, who heard the commotion, peeked through the keyhole and saw that her father was in danger. She also tried to open the door. Unfortunately, Dong-hun deliberately got in the way of protecting Jae-woo until several shots were heard. Finally, Dong-hun collapsed in front of the door and the person immediately ran away. Seeing her father dying, Jae-woo tried to open the door. In his last seconds, the father took the time to apologize to his daughter and regretted that this all happened because of his fault. Jae-woo, who heard this, became even more panicked and sad. After expressing his feelings, the father finally died. When this happened, Jae-woo was of course very sad because her father hadn't come home for a long time and now she came home only to see her father's death. During the Dong-hun funeral procession, a mafia boss named Choi Moo-jin came with his bodyguards. Moo-jin says that Dong-hun is the person he trusts the most and that Dong-hun is a good father. After the mafia mourners leave, Jae-woo rushes to the mortuary to see her father one last time. For a moment, Jae-woo went back to imagining the beautiful times with her father until she couldn't hold back her tears anymore. After several days, Jae-woo came to the police station to protest why the case of her father's death was being slowed down and covered up. In fact, with sufficient evidence, the case of her father's death is very easy to investigate. However, the police instead blamed her father, who had been a fugitive for a long time. Also said that if her father had surrendered a long time ago, I would still be alive. Jae-woo returned to her apartment and lamented this tragic reality. Suddenly there was a knock on the door from outside. Jae-woo, who was curious, peeked at her through the keyhole. Because she was still imagining the tragedy of her father's murder, she was shocked and afraid when she saw the person who came wearing robes exactly like the person who had killed her father. Jae-woo was confused and afraid, but when the man was gone, she was very sorry because she was only one step away when she could have caught and avenged her father's death. Because of this, Jae-woo took the initiative to make circulars and stick them in all corners of the city using the characteristics she knew. She dared to pay 5 million won to anyone who could find the person who killed her father. Until one night, an unknown number called Jae-woo. The caller said that I knew the whereabouts of the person Jae-woo was looking for. Because I was desperate and felt that there was a bright spot, Jae-woo immediately rushed there carrying a small knife to protect herself. When she arrived at the agreed location, it turned out that she had been lied to because the only people there were teenage thugs who intended to rob him. A fight cannot be avoided, so Jae-woo tries to fight them. The thugs were shocked when they saw that Jae-woo was a woman. Because she was outnumbered, Jae-woo finally fainted. and when Jai-woo realized she was in the trunk of the car with her hands tied, and also heard a commotion from outside which turned out to be Moo-jin coming to save her. After the fight, Jai-woo, who was safe, was now taken away to the dock. Moo-jin is curious to find out what Jai-woo wants. Jai-woo, who felt frustrated, said that the police had stopped the investigation and said that her best friend just stood by and watched her father die. Moo-jin, who saw that Jai-woo was very serious about her father's death, had a plan for her. Moo-jin says that if she wants to find her father's killer, then she has to learn how to be a killer. Before long, he took Jai-woo to a special martial arts headquarters for his mafia members. Everyone looked surprised because this was the first time there were female members there. One of the youth members named Do Gang-hee also took them to the room where Jai-woo was resting. He looked happy because it meant that his Maknae position, aka errand boy, had now been replaced by Jai-woo. When she was in her room, Jai-woo carefully put it down and looked at her father's ash jug. She also determined that life must be returned with life. Finally, when training time arrived, instead of getting special treatment or being taught, Jai-woo became the center of attention and was bullied by his seniors, all of whom were men with very large bodies. However, Jai-woo, who is used to being treated badly by the people around her, feels like she doesn't care anymore and doesn't give up that easily. Time continued to pass. With strong determination, she continued to practice strengthening herself, and even now Moo-jin trains and gives her direct direction. Being trained by the mafia boss makes Jai-woo even more determined to kill. With the shadow of her father's killer, Jai-woo continues to train to become strong and invincible, until the day of the test arrived for all of them. They can participate in brutal fights where only one participant wins. When everyone was ready in the arena, they immediately started the match watched by Moo-jin and his subordinates. The results of Jai-woo's training also showed progress because Jai-woo's fighting skills had improved so rapidly and she was agile in facing her competitors who were all big and all male. Finally, Do Gang-hee and Jai-woo, the two youngest members, joined there. The battle is getting fiercer because there is only one winner who will stand in this fight. They also show their best abilities which will determine who is the best. And the winner will get a week's holiday as a prize and will get 10 million won. After a long time of mutual attacks, Jai-woo finally gave a crushing blow and caused Do Gang-hee to faint on the ground. Seeing that the match was over, Moo-jin came to declare that Jai-woo was the winner. Because he lost a match with a woman, Go Dong-hee was bullied by one of his roommates. Meanwhile, Jai-woo is seen busy cleaning the floor in the former practice room which is splattered with the blood of all the participants. When saw Do Gang-hee passing by, Jai-woo tried to apologize. As if nothing had happened, Do Gang-hee answered very kindly. But, when I returned to the room, I told my friend I had a plan for Jai-woo. One of his friends reminded him to stop thinking because Jai-woo was here on the recommendation of Big Boss Moo-jin. And if he dares to touch Jai-woo, then he will just have to deal with Moo-jin, who of course will be terrible. On the other hand, Jai-woo drinks the water in the bottle which turns out to have been mixed with anesthetic by Do Gang-hee. After drinking it, he suddenly became staggered. And not long after, one of his seniors arrived with Dong-hee who had been waiting for the right time to try to rape Jai-woo. However, Jai-woo did not remain silent. She fought with all her remaining strength even though she was affected by the drug. She was not afraid until this incident accidentally caused her father's ashes to fall and break. Seeing this, Jai-woo became very angry and immediately realized the effects of the drug. Meanwhile, Dong-hee is just enjoying the epic performance between his friend and Jai-woo. Jai-woo, who was emotional, tried to hold onto the broken jug and managed to stab Mr. The long-haired man was covered in blood and made her hysterical. Seeing his friend injured, Dong-hee also becomes angry and intends to finish off Jai-woo. However, Jai-woo doesn't give up that easily. Jai-woo managed to get out and even with the last of her strength she managed to injure Dong-hee until Moo-jin's men came and stopped the fight. Because of the chaos created by Do Gang-hee, I also had to face Moo-jin. In front of his boss, Dong-hee tries to apologize and says he just wants to teach Jai-woo a lesson. However, as we know that Jai-woo is Moo-jin's golden child and she is here on his orders, Moo-jin is very angry that someone dared to bother me. Moo-jin then asked Do Gang-hee to choose which part of the body to take out his samurai sword. Seeing that Do Gang-hee did not regret his actions, Moo-jin became even more angry and slashed Do Gang-hee's face. Meanwhile, back in Jai-woo's room, she looks very sad to see that her father's ash jar has been destroyed. The soul's cry was heard by young Tae-ju, who is Moo-jin's trusted assistant. Tae-ju tells Jai-woo to just give up because this is his last chance to leave there. Tae-ju also thinks that Jai-woo's arrival has made the organization chaotic and has lost his valuable subordinate, Do Gang-hee. However, Jai-woo, who has improved positively and feels like she has a zest for life after entering here, has made up her mind and refuses to give up. Firmly, Jai-woo says it's too late to stop. Afterward, Jai-woo is seen visiting Moo-jin at a restaurant. Moo-jin also said that he often went to this place with her father Dong-hun. He also said that today, Yoon Jae-woo had died and had prepared a new identity and name for her, namely Oh Hae-jin, and she had to use it from today onwards. Not only that, Moo-jin also said that her father's killer was a police officer. Moo-jin also handed over the gun found at the time of Jae-woo's father's death and said that it was a gun belonging to the police. Then, Jae-woo was given the task of smuggling into the police and finding out about the case of her father's death for revenge. And from here on, Jae-woo will change her name to Hae-jin to match the plot of this film. At their headquarters, Tae-ju informs them that Do Gang-e has been kicked out of the organization for trying to kill Jae-woo. As the years passed, Hae-jin trained very hard to become a member of the police. And now, Hae-jin is also very skilled at using various weapons. There is also a bird tattoo on your chest which also indicates that you have officially joined as a member of Moo-jin. Also remembered the message from his organization which said that his life now belonged to the Moo-jin organization and if betrayed, he would be killed. With policewoman-style hair, now Hae-jin is getting older and she has also succeeded in becoming a police officer in the violent crimes section. Hae-jin is now a police officer who is obedient in carrying out her duties. She is also on an important mission. This time, his task is to catch a drug kingpin who operates in a night bar. However, in the middle of the operation, she found a girl who had overdosed on drugs. Even so, the good side of Hae-jin's heart remains and she still saves the girl before continuing her mission again. While catching the criminals one by one, Hae-jin peeked through the dark window in the room. She also saw illegal transactions taking place inside. Without hesitation, Hae-jin immediately broke the glass there with a chair, then snuck in and stopped the activity. She immediately beat the criminal with a set of weapons. However, there was one man who caught his attention. The man looked very calm amid the chaos, even taking part in giving lessons to the drug dealers. There was a small argument between them and it turned out that the man was also a member of the police, namely Jeon Pil-do. He is also a detective who has long posed as a drug dealer to infiltrate the organization. The meeting between Hae-jin and Pil-do opens a new storyline in this film. Initially, both of them had different intentions in bringing certain people before the law. However, Pil-do immediately became angry because Hae-jin was thought to have disrupted the plans she had laid out neatly over the last 6 months. Because of this, there was tension between the two, and finally, Hae-jin decided to leave Pil-do. Elsewhere, Choi Moo-jin and his mafia members are teaching his business partners a lesson. This is because, after 10 years of working together, my partner betrayed me. However, as we know, Moo-jin is famous for sadism and barbarity. I was seen putting his partner into a car filled with billowing smoke. Of course, his partner will die slowly. On the other hand, yesterday's success in the operation to arrest the drug dealer led Hae-jin to face her team leader, namely the head of the drug detective team, Cha Gi-ho. When she first met the team leader, Hae-jin immediately remembered the face of her father's killer. This adds to Hae-jin's increasingly strong determination to avenge her father's death. Meanwhile, Moo-jin was waiting for her at a place by the sea. Hae-jin said that currently she is getting closer to her father's killer and is finding out more about who owns the gun. Then Moo-jin said that this place was a witness to where Hae-jin's father tried to save Moo-jin's life in the past. Seen in a flashback of Dong-hun fighting to save Moo-jin and ending with a group photo. Then, Moo-jin gave his knife to Hae-jin and said that if I found the killer he promised that the organization would protect me. Long story short, on the other hand, Jeon Pil-do is in the interrogation room to deepen his investigation. There she found new information about a new suspect named Mango. After receiving the information, left the interrogation room to call her superior. However, I saw on the other side Hae-jin who was entering their room. Pil immediately approached and asked what he was doing there. It turns out that Hae-jin was appointed by team leader Cha Gi-ho as a new colleague from the drug department and was there in the same room as me. Jeon Pil-do feels reluctant to get a new partner, especially since she is a woman, namely Hae-jin. Because according to me it would be a burden while on duty. Shortly after that, Cha Gi-ho received news that someone had died in the car. So Gi-ho began to suspect that soon Moo-jin would make his move. Elsewhere, Moo-jin is approached by his secretary and gets an order of 50 billion won. Then Moo-jin said she wanted to drink the chamomile, even though previously she didn't like it when Jae-woo gave it to me. After that, Tae-ju approached and asked whether Moo-jin still believed in Jae-woo, who had joined the drug police. Tae-ju says that he doesn't believe it anymore, but Moo-jin says he still believes in Jae-woo's desperation and agrees with Tae-ju that if Jae-woo betrays them then they will immediately kill them. Meanwhile, to prove Hae-jin's ability, she was invited to arrest someone named Mango earlier. Arriving at the predetermined location, Hae-jin was assigned to go inside by herself and Pil-do just waited in the car. Hae-jin, who already has a steel mentality, doesn't seem afraid to go in there alone. But as soon as she entered, she was greeted by a very strong guard there. and Hai-jin has to face it first. After successfully disabling the guards one by one, Hai-jin was finally able to enter the bar. Outside, Pildu feels that Hai-jin is taking too long to give the news and decides to go in there too. When I arrived at the entrance, my colleagues were a little confused when they saw the guards there lying on the floor. They couldn't believe that the one who beat them all was Hai-jin. When they arrived inside, saw Hai-jin who was beating up the dealers there one by one.